Today is Monday, February 17th, and this is episode number 39 of the Phillies Fan Podcast here on Big Fan Sports. I'm your host, Jaden Harper. So today we're going to go over some of the Phillies spring storylines as we start here in Clearwater, Florida. Today is the first official full squad workout, even though most of the guys are already down there. But before we get started with this, I do remind you to make sure to like and subscribe and also turn on post notifications so you never miss when I upload a video. So we'll start with our first storyline, which is the Phillies bullpen. I touched on this during the roster projection podcast, but the Phillies really, when you look at everything, will come down to have one roster spot left for their bullpen, and there's about three guys who are really right now in the running for that spot. It's Taijuan Walker, Tyler Phillips, and Max Lazar. We'll start with Walker. He's probably the leader right now because he has to be. There's not really a choice for Taijuan Walker not to be. Phillies cannot move his contract. He has 2 years left, around $36 million left on his contract with the Phillies. And, he hasn't been what the Phillies have hoped out of his deal. So right now, the Phillies are kind of stuck, and they can't move his contract anywhere. They can't leave him off the roster, and they really don't want to have to eat the money. So right now, they're kind of forced to have him in the bullpen. Right now, he'd probably be one of the longer relief guys, along with Joe Ross. So he is right now in the running and probably in the lead for that last bullpen spot. But the guy who I think should probably get that spot is Tyler Phillips. Last year, towards the end, he struggled mightily. Right, he had that really bad start in Toronto against the Blue Jays, which really led to him losing one of his options. They could have preserved another option for him. He had that blow-up start basically in Toronto, lost him that option. But he was a great surprise for the Phillies, especially last July. Came up onto the scene, had a solid debut in Atlanta out of relief, came into the starting rotation, had very good starts against Oakland, also a good start against the Pirates, right? So he's really earned the spot to be in the rotation. And mind you, I didn't mention he threw a complete game shutout last year against the Cleveland Guardians, the second best team in the American League, right? So I really think Tyler Phillips would be the best person to fit in that final bullpen role. He could give you length, but he could also come out of the bullpen and give you late innings. He's younger than Walker. He looked better for the most part of last year than Walker, so I really think Tyler Phillips deserves that last spot. But they also have Max Lazar. He has the options to go down to AAA and in the minors, but he came on the scene last year as well for the Phillies and pitched well. He's more of a regular bullpen arm. He's going to go out, give you an inning of good hard work, right? He's probably not going to be a long relief type of guy, but he knows how to throw and throw well. So I really could see him potentially getting that last reliever role. Even if he doesn't get it now, he could definitely be on the roster, by May, June, July. Injuries happen. I think he's probably first up out of AAA if they do need to call someone up due to injury or due to performance. So I think Lazar is on a track to be on the majors at some point and contribute for the major league team. Another very interesting name for the Phillies to look out really for this last bullpen spot is Koyo Agiagi. He was signed. He was a free agent from Japan. The Phillies signed him out of Japan. And he's joined the team on a minor league contract. The Phillies have him down with the minor league team, major league invite. So he's going to basically have a tryout during camp this year. And if he pitches well enough, there's definitely a reality where he could get that final bullpen spot for the Phillies out of the bullpen, right-handed pitcher. Right? And the Phillies don't really have a lot of success, but signing international guys, especially Japanese guys, right? So really getting him could open up a big gateway of more and more international signings that the Phillies could potentially have their swing and opportunity at. So those are really the four guys I would say who have a chance at getting that final bullpen spot. Our next storyline is the backup catcher position. Right now, JT Realmuto will be the starter for the Phillies no matter what unless he gets injured. the backup catcher is going to be a little interesting this year. You have Rafael Marchand, who right now would be the backup catcher. He doesn't have any more minor league options yet left. And you have Garrett Stubbs, who is most likely going to start the year in the minor leagues. But when you look at past experience and past ability and performance, right, you would have to believe that Garrett Stubbs would have a good opportunity of being on the major league team at some point in 2025, considering Marchand has yet to prove that he could stay healthy for a full season, right? He was injured last year. It's a big reason why he wasn't able to come up last year. They had to call up Garcia for AAA. He's no longer with the team, right? And, Marchand was able to come up. He can't stay really healthy. That's been his one big thing that he hasn't, stayed on the field. And also, we've seen with Marchand that he's been playing every day and hasn't been able to stay healthy. He hasn't had this opportunity to be the backup catcher every day for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and be okay. He's gonna play once every 6 days, once every 5 days for JT, right? He's been an everyday catcher in AAA, and he has been very injury prone. Where you look at Garrett Stubbs, he's been that type of once every 5 days, 4 days, 6 days for the past 3 years with the Phillies in this exact same role, backing up JT Realmuto, most of the same pitchers, especially the starting pitchers. Right, I would say Garrett Stubbs should have the inside track at becoming the backup catcher. Realistically, and I would be absolutely shocked if Marchand doesn't get it because he doesn't have any more minor league options, but it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Garrett Stubbs on the major league roster sooner than later during the regular season. We also talk about the lineup here, and that's one of the bigger storylines. Do the Phillies keep Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff position? This is something that has been talked about really since 2022. The Phillies did not start off with Kyle Schwarber. Well, they had him in the leadoff spot for the beginning of the season. They took him out of the leadoff spot. Rob Thompson comes. He gets back in the leadoff spot, and the Phillies go on their run to the World Series from there. 2023, Rob Thompson decides to have Trey Turner lead off for the beginning of the 2023 season. Bryson Stott got some cracks at hitting leadoff as well. Phillies were struggling. They put Schwarber back at the leadoff spot. The Phillies went on to the NLCS. 2024, the Phillies had Schwarber at the leadoff spot for the entire season, and the Phillies ended up winning the division, had their best regular season in 14 years. So realistically from that, I would see Schwarber being the leadoff. There's been a lot of talk about Schwarber potentially not being the leadoff hitter. That's where I see someone potentially like a Trey Turner getting that leadoff spot like he did in 2023. Rob Thompson has talked a lot about changing the lineup up. Where does Schwarber fit into that? Is he the 3-hole hitter? Is he the 4-hole hitter? Does Bryce Harper end up moving up? Does Alec Boehm move up? Who moves down, right? Where do you have Brandon Marsh, Max Kepler, Bryson Stott, JT Realmuto, like that back half, the back four, right, in the top five? How are you going to adjust that? And that's Rob Thompson. It's really going to be something you look for during spring training. I would think Kyle Schwarber should be in the leadoff spot, right? He had one of his, if not his best season in the major leagues last year. He had one of his highest averages. Right? He was walking a lot. He was not striking out as much, and he was hitting home runs still at an active rate for the Phillies. I think it would make the most sense having Schwarber at the leadoff spot, because when the Schwarber's at the leadoff spot, the Phillies win. It's been that case since he's been in Philly. When he hasn't been in the leadoff spot, the Phillies have not been as good as a team as when he is in the leadoff spots. For just that, I think it's more valuable to have Schwarber hitting leadoff for the Phillies. But another point on Schwarber here, and another big storyline, is extensions. Schwarber is scheduled to be a free agent at the end of the 2025 season. So is JT Realmuto. So is Ranger Suarez. Those are the three biggest names right now for the Phillies, who will most likely have discussions about contract extensions. It seems like Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto both want to get extensions done sooner than later to stay with the Phillies past 2025. Last year, you saw Zach Wheeler and Matt Strahm both work out extensions past 2024 to stay with the Phillies. Right, so I think JC and Kyle will most likely have extensions done by the time camp breaks and the Phillies head up to Washington, D.C. for opening day. I can't say the same about Ranger Suarez, considering he is a Boris client. he doesn't usually do extensions talking about Boris, right? So I really think that Ranger Suarez will most likely hit the open market. I don't know if his future is in Philly. He's going to finish out the year with the Phillies. I don't know if his future is necessarily in Philadelphia. If you want to talk about future, you can talk about the top three prospects in the Phillies organization being non-roster invites to Major League Spring Training. The Phillies invited Andrew Painter, Justin Crawford, and Aiden Miller all up to spring training to be with the Major League team. Painter will make his MLB debut unless something goes horrifically wrong. He will make his debut in either June or July with the Major League team. He won't pitch in any Clearwater game and any Grapefruit League games for the Phillies during the spring training, but he will most likely start pitching to in games in April or May, and it's expected that he will be up with the Major League team some point during the season. He has Tommy John surgery back in 2023. He was breaking camp with the Phillies. He was scheduled to in 2023, had his elbow issue, and that he wasn't able to break camp with them. He's been out really since then. In the Arizona Fall League, he dominated, so a lot of hope there for the Phillies and Andrew Painter as he begins to ramp up. With Justin Crawford and Aiden Miller, it's going to be really interesting to see how they perform here at the Major League level. Realistically, it would be a very long shot to see either one of them get onto the Major League roster out of camp, considering the Phillies are already have a really set infield, one of the best infields in baseball, and the outfield, I would say, is pretty set. I don't see one of them getting that last roster spot or beating out a guy like, for example, Johan Rojas in the outfield to get that last outfield spot. So realistically, they will both start in the minors. I would believe they'll probably start in either AAA or where they ended the year in AA. So the Phillies really are leading into a let's go win the World Series now, but also at the same time looking at the future and saying we have a good team that we could compete right past 2026, 2027, 2028, right, where the Phillies won't have this sharp decline like they had back after the 2011 season once, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, and Jimmy Rollins, they fell out of their, the top of their careers, the pinnacle of their careers. They started to decline a little bit. So did the Phillies. They went through that tough stretch. Then they came back to where they were. So really from there, I think the Phillies have set themselves up to not have that decline like they did after the 2011 team and to have the chance to continue to get better and better from 2026, 2027, 2028 while these current guys, start to phase out. So that's going to be something to look for during this spring training to see how these guys play and develop over these next 5-6 weeks in Clearwater and Grapefruit League action and then throughout the 2025 season with the Phillies minor league organizations. So those are the major storylines for the Phillies in this 2025 spring training. They kicked off their spring training action on Saturday. Their first home quote unquote home game in Clearwater will be on Sunday against the Baltimore Orioles. I will be live for that game starting at 1:05 Eastern right here on Big Fan Sports. So make sure to tune in for that. I'll be back here on Friday to preview the weekend slate of games for the Phillies in their first spring training action. Tomorrow and Thursday, I'll be previewing the AL East and the NL East on the Rounding Third podcast right here on Big Fan Sports. That's coming out tomorrow and Thursday, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you never miss when I either go live for a stream or post a video. Thank you for watching episode number 39 of the Phillies Fan Podcast. I'm Jaden Harper, and I'll see you in the next one.